Hi, Jen Dunn. Hey, James.
Hey, Tabs.
Hi, Tabs.
Hi.
I wish I could record this right now. She's standing in front of the TV
I
watching
wish I
Dancing with
could.
the Stars, waiting for JoJo to come on and dancing with the dance.
Oh,
You're doing a great job. You got a 10.
10 out of
Hold
10.
that paddle up.
10 out of 10.
There's not really anyone on this time, like Brian Austin Green and some all has-beens, but
That
That's
chick
the
from The
premise, isn't it?
Office.
The Office
met
and
him.
Yeah.
Where'd you meet Brian Austin Green?
At a World of Whales show,
What is that?
a car show where you go
Oh,
it's actually dreadful.
It's actually
But he was there, so I went with
well, he's hot.
Wait,
A
the
bunch
hot
of guys going to see
goes?
cars. They're like,
I
hey,
love
you get to
that.
see that guy from 90210.
Exactly.
Let's just make this podcast us watching Kaya watch Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
She's
Hang on
dancing
tight,
at the
girl.
TV. It's the cutest thing ever.
I
don't
love
know.
you, hon.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
We love you
I
too.
do.
We love you so much too.
Love you.
Hello and welcome to Table for Five with no reservations. Take a seat at the table for a fresh, sweet, salty, tart, and pleasantly bitter conversation.
Hello, and thank you for taking a seat at the table. Series 6, Episode 2. Tonight we're going to talk about taking our kids out into the community. Seated at the table with me tonight is Tabitha Cabrera,
Hello.
Rachel Flanagan,
Hey.
Jamie Ramos,
Hi.
Kim McIsaac,
Hey.
and I'm Jen Dunn. Rachel, would you like to get us started tonight?
I would love to. You know, when I think about taking Seely out and about, I feel like I've not graduated from a diaper bag like process to prepare. I have all the extras, like my car is there's a swim bag because like in case mermaid. It has the sunscreen in it. It has a baby powder. That's how we get the sand off in Minnesota. It has 2 beach towels and like a shovel. There's another bag that will be winter that like it's traded in. I've got like prepped kind of stuff, partially because I don't have a better place to put it when it's like come inside. So I just like clean it and shovel it back into the spot. But it's COVID, so we don't go out too much. We have limited access just because safety plus Seely safety, like, you know, the pandemic in addition to doing our thing and keeping her safe. Anyway, so we bring like a bag of tricks, like Mary Poppins style. And then recently, gosh, it's like hard to start in the middle. Seely at 5 gained a whole bunch of weight and she was having like leg cramp issues and stuff. And I feel like in the same way that snow pants keep a kid slow, like it slowed her to like have less mobility. And so she would dart off less. Now she has, because of a med change, lost a ton of weight. She is like forward leaning when she runs and she just hauls until she decides to turn. I mean, it's just something. So recently out and about for us has been including and sort of testing out the idea of using a wheelchair because it's a way to keep her contained, which allows us to go into the community and then let her get out and enjoy the things without being so overwhelmed by the sensory or like, you know, not stimulated or whatever. Anyhow, that's, I don't know. We just need like all of these accommodations. And I'm kind of the mom too that has to call ahead, go early. We talk about dinner at 3 and breakfast at 11 or 6 a.m. You know, like we go before the crowds.
Well, and you can't like go in blind. You
Yeah.
have to know what to expect.
Mhm.
I always joke that I get like a footprint of the place. So I know where the closest exits are
Yeah.
in case of an emergency,
Yeah.
being my child.
RPO, like my dream corner of a restaurant is the corner that's furthest from the door, but also furthest from the restroom. So you're not like on the line of traffic and distraction constantly. Like put me in the opposite from the front door corner and let me face out and her face like backwards. So she's got a booth only and we have like the whole eye like an eagle.
What about you, James?
We're kind of in a okay place with going out in the community. When Jessie was younger, it was a lot harder. I definitely had a diaper bag backpack full of everything. Now I can bring less stuff, but it depends on where we're going. But like Rach, being prepared and like taking into account, like, are we going somewhere with food? How long is the food going to take? Because I need to probably bring pre-food to the food if there is food.
There's like fast food and slow food too, like
Yes.
applesauce, quick, Cheerios, slow.
It was like recently we went to this like concert in the park and they have all the food trucks and they do those a lot in our area and the lines are always insane. And I didn't think ahead of that because it's like waiting in line, waiting for food. And then when we're out together as like a family unit, one of his biggest things is that we're all together. Like separating is really hard for him. We can't have a situation. Well, we can, but we really have to talk through and work it. We're like, we've left something in the car and I have to run and get it, or my husband has to run and get it. We're always like together. So it's like being as prepared as possible. And of course, like I have no brain because I don't sleep. So I forget stuff all the time and have to figure it out, but as prepared as you can. If you've ever gone to a restaurant, like kids cups are great, but have you been to one where like they ran out of the kids cups and they're just trying to give you a regular
Oh
A
my
cup for
gosh.
your kid?
Yeah.
So I always keep disposable like lid cups in my bag. Like this is the most random things that like I rarely ever use, but like if you like
Yeah.
pulled me over, went through my bag and be like, what is this crazy lady doing? My daughter, who's 3, we still use a stroller for her. And Jesse's like right at 50 pounds, which is the like maximum weight for most strollers. And we've had several situations where we take her out of the stroller and put him in if he's having a really hard time. And that is something that I'm scared about going in the future because we won't have that. We're kind of shifting to a wagon because he needs his own space sometimes. In that exact situation at the food truck, he started having a meltdown about something. I knew he was probably hungry and the waiting and all that. And so we put him in the stroller. His headphones are a must. It took us a long time to get him used to headphones, but he's very sensitive to sound. But now they're like a comfort for him. And also they're kind of a thing I could throw on my kid. I'm always like, do you need your headphones? He's like, yes. I don't put them on just for vanity, but it signals to a lot of people, hey, this is probably autism. And that it does help. It helps take away a lot of the judgment and stares. I'm getting to a place where I'm kind of like over that. I don't even care anymore. But sometimes it is like heartbreaking when you look up and around and everyone's staring at you. So things sometimes that signal like, hey, this is us out in the community and this is why, get over it.
Yeah.
Another thing, like just things that come for him. We bring him always, like if we go to like amusement park or when we go to Disney, there we definitely get a stroller for him that he can sit in. But we always bring like some sort of stuffed animal. And he's usually not too particular what it is, as long as we deem that his comfort thing. So we're like, do you need your comfort? Do you need this? And just like, I don't know, I guess overall in the community, I'm like on it. I'm checking everything out. Like Rach, I look out before we're going. I'm not good about calling ahead. I'm not good about asking for accommodations. I think we've talked about that stuff before. I usually make my husband do that, but I am like really big on like foreseeing every need he could possibly have or anything that could lead to a situation that I don't want to be in. And I don't want my kid to suffer. It's hard for him to go out. And so I want to make it as easy as possible for him. So
And
it's
smooth.
just, yes,
Yeah.
and smooth. Because I want us all to enjoy it. I want my daughter to
Yes.
enjoy it. I want us all to have fun. And if we're spending a crap ton of money like at Disney or somewhere big, it's like I would like not to pay $500 today for a meltdown and a going back to the hotel.
Go to the hotel early. Yeah. Mhm.
What about you, Kimmy? You're a few years ahead of us.
Wow. I mean, out in the community has evolved tenfold over the years. It was really hard in the beginning. My husband worked a lot, so it was just me, her, and my son who was 5. So I didn't have a choice but to bring her out, if I needed to go to the grocery store or go to Walmart or wherever she had to come. She did well as long as we were moving. Once we stopped moving,
Yeah.
she didn't do well. There was a lot of stares, a lot of meltdowns. And obviously the awareness of autism wasn't really there at the time. So that was very difficult. I was always a believer in taking her out and getting her out. Even back then, we had a lot of fails, but I think they led to the successes we have now. I mean, we had times that we went to a restaurant and left. We had a lot of phases that we went through. Like she had a phase of like pinching other kids if they whined or cried. That was very difficult, as you can imagine.
Mhm.
She had a phase where she would pull fire alarms wherever we were. So that was a little bit.
Oh. I have to pause
Alyssa's
you,
in the
Kim.
house.
Yeah, Lulu. I have a question. How long do phases last when your kid is 25? Like, looking back, are you like, oh man, that was a big 2 weeks?
It's like you kind of forget, like,
Oh, I
and
hope
then we'll
it's
talk
good.
about it, like the fire alarm thing. So she just did that one time. And I mean, when I say pull a fire alarm, we were leaving. Thank God we were leaving. We were leaving the restaurant. She just ran. She dotted, did it. I mean, the lights went out. Their emergency lights came on.
Wow.
Alarms were going off. They didn't know what to do. The fire department had to come and shut the alarm off. And we're like, oh, thanks. Bye. Sorry. We'll just be going on our way now.
We're
But once
taking the
she did that-
crayons too.
Once she did it that one time, it became a thing because she liked the
Oh, God.
reaction. She was like, "Oh, this is cool," you know. So then anywhere we were like, "Where's the fire alarm?" Like, so we could try to. And eventually, she, got over. I'd rather that than her hurting people. That's one time we were at a restaurant and my husband went to bring her to the bathroom, and she just out of nowhere, Dad pinched this little boy. He's doing nothing, sitting at his little booth. He started screaming. My husband scurried to the bathroom, and the parents like turned around. They're like, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" And he couldn't really tell them. So we're like,
It's
"Oh
like
my
I was
God."
stung by a bee.
Yeah. So then he comes down and he's like, "Oh my God, she just pinched that little boy for like no reason. Like she just, I mean, there was a reason to her. There's something that triggered her, and that would be her reaction." So that was a really rough time in the community. But like Jamie's saying, we had other kids. So like there were soccer games. There were some really bad times. And sometimes I would lick my wounds and be like, we're not doing this anymore. But I knew that was the only way to get her to learn how to act in the community. So we just kept trying. We kept
You're my
trying.
hero.
And I mean, we had times where she used to love to go. We have a pond very close to us, and it's very small, contained. It was easy to have her there, but I couldn't get her to leave.
Mhm.
So when she was 3, sure, I scooped her up. She kicked and screamed. Who cares? Throw her in the car seat. Let her scream on the way home. But when she was 7 and 8, I couldn't do that. I couldn't pick her up and throw her over my shoulder. Also, I had like more kids then. There were times that I had to have my husband. I mean, I'd literally have to drag her up the sand, and she's screaming like you're murdering her.
People look at you like you're
You
a
can't.
child.
It's hard to move her. Like she's big. It's not like
Yeah.
she's not. I can't just scoop
Plus,
her up.
there is a weight aside of pounds
Yeah.
in force and momentum down
Yes.
in rage, aggression, or I mean,
And
this
you
could
have to be
Mad
careful on
Libs
how it
here,
looks
but it's
to
heavy.
other people.
Yes.
If I'm
I
like
just
trying
had
to push her along a little bit, I'm not being aggressive towards her. I'm just
Like,
trying to like get her
Roll
to move.
it on.
Go.
There were a few times we had to stay at the pond until my husband could meet me there after work.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I couldn't, and there was times where I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not doing this anymore. Is it even worth going? But she
Yeah.
loved it so much, and she did well, except for sometimes she tried to steal people's floaties, but
Nah, it's normal.
and it gets a little harder when they start getting older because nobody gets mad at a 3-year-old usually for doing
Right.
it, nobody gets mad at a 3-year, but when a 7 or 8-year-old comes over and touches your stuff or and she
Yeah.
had no concept of that, she would be like, oh, I want to use this float, this looks great. She just like grab it and go. So there was a lot of times that were very trying, but I feel like we just kept doing it, and I don't know, we just kept doing it. And I don't think it ever dawned on me we'll just stay in the house. Like I was young, like I didn't have somebody to help really with
Yeah.
those. He got home for 11 o'clock at night, like the stores were closed. So I didn't really have a choice but to get out and do it. And now today we can obviously have her in the community. She does great at restaurants. I mean, sometimes she doesn't do good. Every once in a while she'll have a hard time, and sometimes you don't know what it is that like kind of bothers her, but
Mhm.
most of the time she does really well. We were at Disney and there was lightning, but there was no rain. So we had to leave because we were there for like 2 hours, and it was like our last day of being out of park. So we're like, let's just leave and go over to Magic Kingdom from the water park. And she couldn't understand why we were leaving. So she just lost her mind because we went through all this stuff to go to a water park. We're at the water park. We're waiting around, not going in the water. I think it was raining. She would understand more, but she's not understanding that we can't do anything because it was lightning out.
Yeah.
And she
Right.
had a meltdown like you wouldn't believe. And here she is like 21, screaming like somebody was killing her, like almost like ripping off her, not completely taking off her bathing suit, but like she pulls at her clothes when she gets really distressed. So she's like,
Mhm.
if she only had a bathing suit on. So she's pulling at the bathing suit. I mean, people are staring.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, and my husband's like, let's go, just keep walking. And my mother's going,
Just
"Are you
drag her.
okay?" And she's like, ah! It's just like these screams that you just can't even, oh my God. I'm just like, oh my God.
Our biggest meltdowns living places have been water
And she just
places.
didn't, I mean, I can understand from her perspective, like she doesn't
Yeah.
have the receptive language to explain something like that to her. That's way too abstract. She's like, why are we leaving this really fun place that we didn't get to do? You can kind of understand in the heat of the moment, it's harder to sympathize with that because she's acting, and everybody's like, it's
Yeah.
kind of embarrassing. I don't get embarrassed that easy anymore, but that was like, and she's like pulling out her bathing suit. So I'm just like, oh my God.
It's
But
like,
most of the
it's so
time-
hard because you feel like every time you feel like, oh, this has got to be the most memorable. And then the next time, instead of being in that like crap situation, she's in a swimsuit now.
I know. And I'm like, oh my
Me,
God, please
like,
keep
how
that thing
can
up, please.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Well, that's
it's
good.
tou-
It's good it gets easier, Kimmy.
I feel like I do this thing where I'll use my own language and direction of Seely to sort of bark to anybody that can understand any social cues whatsoever. I'm like, okay, Seely, so we're going to have safe bodies. Who's the kid in front of you in line? He's wearing a blue swimsuit. Who's behind you? We're going to stay in front of these people. Like, like I just go extra real loud. If you can
But I want to attack people when they start staring because I'm already so agitated.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
And like, I can't take it out on her because it's just going to make the situation worse. So you have to be very patient with her and try to be very like calm voice. And the second you're not, it just kind of makes everything worse. So when there's some person staring at you, like this is a grown woman screaming like a banshee. Obviously there's something that's not, 100% here. It's not a 3-year-old
Come
that you're
on.
like, okay, they're a spoiled brat. Like obviously you can tell that there's something. And then I just want to attack people because it's not even them really.
Yes.
It's just really the situation. But I get so I
Don't
get
make
so worked
direct
up
eye
sometimes.
contact with me.
I don't.
Do not
I'm
raise
like,
an
go
eyebrow.
ahead, say something, do it.
I know.
Yes.
I'm like, people never seen someone cry before. Now, before I wouldn't do that because before I'd be mortified. I'd be so mortified and
I-
overwhelmed that I would
yeah.
I wouldn't do that. But like now, I don't care now. But
I make people wonder, like, is that a difference or is that mom crazy? And that little girl is learning from her. Stop
exactly.
looking.
But she does really good now. She does really good. Once in a while something might trigger her, but for the most part, Jamie does the same thing with what you were saying with Jessie. She doesn't like when we separate. So sometimes it doesn't bother her though. So it's just like a weird thing. This happened to us not that long ago. We went away for the weekend and we stayed in an Airbnb for 2 nights. And then the last night we switched to a hotel. Well, I'm not sure if she just didn't like the downgrade or exactly what it was, but I think she got confused because we were going into the hotel and my husband was taking the car and bringing it around the back so he could bring our stuff in. And I think she thought he was leaving. And once that happened, it just escalated and it's really hard to get her back down when she gets to that point. But she does, sometimes she doesn't like when we separate, but sometimes like you can, and it's fine. Like I just don't think she understands sometimes when that's happening, like where the other people are going. And then I'm like, oh, you can go with daddy. And then she's like, no. I'm like, okay, note to self, next time, do not separate. Everybody will drive around back to the trailer. But it was already the change of going to a different place and, all that stuff.
Well, it's good to know that it gets easier.
And
And so
bring her
you're
everywhere.
way at the other end of the 24 plus now. And
We bring
Tabs,
her,
you have the
everywhere.
babies.
Yeah.
What about your babes?
It depends on the place, really, for us.
Mhm.
Like it's hard for the 4 of us to go somewhere together. It's really hard because then it's one-on-one, one kid to one kid. Our kids have different troubles in public. So generally what happens is one of them's fine and the other one is having a hard time or vice versa. Like Nora has a lot of issues with sounds, loud places, unfamiliar places. Nixon's more kind of go with the flow, but he gets overstimulated by a lot of activity or people. So like this weekend we went to the trampoline park, which our daughter loved, absolutely loved. It was loud. There were lots of people. There was so much sensory input. Like she's a seeker of that for sure. But Nixon, you could tell after about 20 minutes, he was like, it's too much people, too much sound. And it wasn't even that many people. It was just like action moving near him and balls and
The volume.
music. And
There's
yeah,
fans and stuff there too. Like fans drive Celie crazy unless she knows where their origin and like how it's going to move.
yeah. And so generally if we're going the four of us, it's usually a place of water because we know they'll both be interested in it. Someplace
Mhm.
that's secured where we're not like following one direction and the other direction, a place we know, or we've taken one of them to the place before, so we know what it looks like on the inside and if we can
I
manage
love a good
both of
test
them.
run.
Yeah, test run. But Nixon had a huge problem leaving places when he was little. It was terrible. I mean, like really hard because I think like Alyssa, he didn't comprehend what we were doing. Like you couldn't prompt him to say, okay, in 5 minutes, we're going to leave. He
Yeah.
did not understand that at all.
Yep.
So when I was about 8 months pregnant with Nora, I was like, where can I take my kid on the weekend? Nick was like working overtime or something where it's going to be closed because I can't climb up someplace and get him out. And, where I can entice him to leave when it's time to leave. So I'm like, okay, McDonald's, like at least if it's at McDonald's, I can ask one of the workers if he decides to stay at the top to like go in and get him, So we go to McDonald's.
Especially as a pregnant lady. Like,
Yeah, I was huge.
Yeah.
I was like
Help me.
almost bursting at that point with
Bring
the
you some
baby.
fries with that kid when you come down.
So we got food. It was fine. He was playing around with some other kids. He came down and I was like, okay, you're down. Time to leave. Like, I don't have to ask anyone to get you down. Yeah, I think he came for more French fries.
this lunch is in a box. Let's
Yeah.
roll.
And I was going great. I think what he thought is we were going to get more food or another drink. And so we had to pass the counter to get to the front door. So by the time we get to the front door, he's like laying on the ground. I'm huge. He's heavy. I can't pick him up. And there's like all these people circling in and out of McDonald's. And I'm like trying to like kind of shuffle him out the door with my pregnant self. And like this one guy was standing at the door. I'm like, can you open the door? I'm like screaming at him, open the door, man. Help me out. And then Nixon's like just dead weight in front of the door. I'm like, I'm going to end up on YouTube. I'm like this giant pregnant lady who's driving her child out McDonald's, screaming at someone to hold the door for me.
What are the keywords? I'm going to search it just in case.
Oh, we made it to the door.
I am so grateful that I had a typical kid first because at least I had a second parent. He could at least
Open
like
the
carry.
door.
He could carry something, hold the door.
Yeah,
do
well, that was
something.
the thing. I had the drinks and my purse, and I finally just like ditched the drinks. I'm like, I don't have enough hands for this. We're leaving the drinks. But I learned over time for him, he's really great at like a routine. So if you bring a snack for him, it's like it has to be something like gummies or something like that. And you're like, here's your snack. You get to open it when we get into the car. When you get in your car seat,
Yeah,
I will open
cheeks
your
in.
snack. Cheeks in, we're opening your snack. So now that's kind of our system to leave places. And he is so much, oh my God, it's amazing. But now we're having the opposite problem with our daughter because she can't, or like it's transferred
Bribery
to,
is so hard.
she can't, it transfers to her. So she doesn't know when we're leaving places. She hasn't picked up on the cues of that yet. So we're starting. Plus she just hasn't been out in public as much as him because we've been locked up so much. So it's harder for her to comprehend that situation. But
Is she okay entering places? Nora reminds me a lot of Jesse, and we would literally stand outside a place for 30 plus minutes.
Yeah.
Because he would freak out about going into a new place. Like I know now that was probably anxiety. He just didn't know. He's like, I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
And the whole time we were in there, he would be trying to get out. He would find the front door, just try to get out the door.
She does that a lot. Or she does a thing where she covers her ears when we walk into a place with her fist because she is unfamiliar with it. The territory or whatever, but with the bolt,
Celie used to do that, and she protected her fingers. So like after sensory seeking, her little fingers would go in like mitts, and then she would do these things with the clubs and do that.
Yep, that's what Nora does. Covers her ears. I just think that for the four of us, it's just like so hard to. It's really, really, really hard for us to go out in public. The four of us. Especially if there's something like that's motivating them to want to be fixated on.
You need a 2-seater wagon.
Yeah.
With straps.
With straps.
We used to have the double car or stroller, where Nixon could, it's
Yeah.
the one where you can stand in the back and then Nora was in the front. And he always like turned his feet around and tucked him in. So he was actually in, like they were both strapped in. It was excellent. But he's too heavy for it now.
Yeah,
And
we just
Nora's
grabbed
too big
ours.
for it too. Yeah. So we're
I
kind of
still
in
have
it.
the double stroller because
I do too.
But
Yeah, I do too.
anymore.
We still have it too. I don't know. Going out and about is something we've learned. We also carry mass amounts of stuff, motivating stuff like sensory
Options.
toys in the bag, sunscreen, because we live in Arizona. You got to put the sunscreen on, especially their very pasty white mother. Snacks, you know, our daughter's still in pull-ups, the whole gamut of crap.
I
But yeah.
find that like we would always have to have a plan A, a plan B,
Mhm.
and a plan C. And that's just kind of like how we got through some of the hard stuff where sometimes we would have, my husband would be there to know, he'd be the person that would be like, I'll take her out if I need to take her out. Or sometimes we did 2 cars, even though it sounds crazy. Sometimes if it was something that like, you know, because it's hard on the other kids.
We are
Because
a
it
always
family
do
of
2
3 and we
cars.
take 2 cars
Yeah,
sometimes.
always. If I go with my family, we do
because
2 cars.
because like if we're somewhere, say we're at a cookout or some kind of family gathering, something
Mhm.
fun where like the other kids are gonna want to stay, it's just not fair to them to drag them out either. Or like she'd go to their dance recitals, which is, you know, that's a big ask for an autistic person, really. But we'd have my husband, we'd have my dad. Sometimes my dad would take her out and let her walk around, like whatever it was. And then year after year, she knew what to expect. She was able to do it. I mean, she's able to go to dance competitions. My husband can't even go to dance competitions. Like, well, he like literally can't. And she does good. She claps. She stays, you know, she stays relatively quiet. I mean, we give her snacks. And the only thing sometimes is like when you leave and come back, she's like, we're done. We're
Yeah.
done. Back to the hotel.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For the longest time, Kaya would not go through unfamiliar doors. So anywhere, if we went anywhere that she wasn't familiar with, she would bear down. And there was no getting her through those doors. So that was a challenge. For myself, I've said it to Rachel before, I always feel like I'm still packing for an infant. 2 iPads, headphones, all the snacks, you know, whatever it needs to be. We don't just get to pick up and leave. It's literally taking a bag. But for us, going in the community has changed drastically. Jamie, I, like you, never used to ask for help or ask for any kind of concessions, but now I have no problem being like, can you please turn your music down? I need a booth away from people. I mean, I'm pretty specific about when we go out, and not because, and I read this somewhere, not because I'm expecting special treatment, but she needs these things to be successful. She can't have the music blaring. And I tend to take her to the same places so people kind of get to know us. And so it's a little bit easier with that. Like we walked into a restaurant last week and the hostess remembered, we're going to put you in the same booth. And I know we need to turn the music down. And she just instinctively knew because we've been in there so many times. But I used to dread, I am a single parent. So anytime I take my daughter out, I am by myself. I have no extra set of hands. So it's like, I had to figure it out. I had no choice. There was just nobody. It was just us. Going out was hard because she wouldn't go, again, through doors she didn't know. You know, the grocery store, the lights, the sound, the carts, all of it. It was very hard to even do a grocery shop. But for anyone that is in that same boat, I can say that consistency is key.
Yeah.
And to keep trying, because eventually it does get easier. My daughter is dancing right now to JoJo Siwa, is a restaurant queen. I mean, she orders her own dinner now or her own lunch. And so that's gotten easier. But there was a time I couldn't take her to a restaurant. She would scream bloody murder. It was awful for everybody involved, you know, and I do think of other people in those situations because they're there as well. But we just kept doing it. Grocery stores, the mall, anywhere I could take her that was just getting her out into places. And like I said, I have no.
If you have the ability to prep, and Jen, I know you do this, like it's to go at the 3 p.m.
Oh yeah, we do that.
The 11 a.m.s, the 7 a.m.s.
Right when they open, leave
Yep.
when the people start flooding in.
Yeah,
We do that
yeah.
if we go any place.
But I'm also a guy, believe it or not, I like to be prepared with those kind of things. So I always try to, scope it out first. Like I said, I literally
that's
whatever
really
she needs.
Yeah, it's really like, and I think we understand this is that we are trying to ask our kids to be in a place that's uncomfortable for them or for,
Right.
like they're overwhelmed. I wouldn't want to continually be in a place that is unfamiliar, or that I don't understand, or that's too loud or too shiny or has
So that, all the experts and autistic adults and all of these people that have done videos that have talked about what it's like being in the community, they say everything is coming at them.
Yeah.
1,000 times more. Sounds of glasses, forks, people cutting their food, all
Yeah.
of those things, like Rachel said, music playing, fans going, all of the things I would have never thought about, I hear them now and I
Yeah.
cringe because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, lady, you have to scrape your plate like that? Like, you know, like, come on,
I
lady,
know.
pick up your friggin' fork kind of thing.
Oh,
And
we
I hear
can't
those
be
things
next to
now.
7.
I get
The
nervous
movies.
about it.
I'm like, why are the movies so loud?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I feel like there's this hypervigilance that we've talked a lot about, probably on our Tired AF episode or all these other things, but it's like you get so keyed up, especially when going out and about. Like I have to be ready. Celie feels like she's hit by a car when a car drives near us, and whatever her perception of near is like, yet she runs towards the street. These are complicated things. And like, just to go back a skosh, as I'm listening to all of you guys, it's like the choice isn't necessarily there right now for us to continue to build on being in the community, these skills, without giving her her own space where she's literally comfortable to be in, that she can retreat to. Like the wheelchair we're ordering has the deepest canopy because I, by happenstance, like lusted over this mini city stroller. I'm telling you, we had the first birth mom packet out in our adoption plan. And I was like, I get my stroller. Like, I'm going to be a mom. It was like the first big purchase. That thing had us like a
Love that.
canopy to the navel.
We get the Disney every time.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's perfect. But that set the standard. Now I'm supposed to use some umbrella stroller to help my child out. No. And then she's like a 5-year-old that wears a size women's medium clothes for a hot minute there. You can't put that in an umbrella stroller. We need something to keep her really tight as well. Like it's just so many.
Well, I also did for a
but we
period of
can't
time,
lose
and I
the
did
skill.
it. We went to Disney first because Kaya's dad's like, you turn around for 1 second in Disney, she's gone. So I got like a harness for her, which I got a lot of judgment on having her on a harness. Like the lady walking through
Oh,
Disney
get on a
said,
leash.
don't you think she's a little old for that? I said, don't you think you should mind your bleeping business, lady? Because this is the happiest freaking place on earth. And I am not happy right now. I am not happy. So like the judgment that comes from people for having, you know, but it's really just safety. There was a time when I had to keep the doors locked. I had to go out and open the door because she'd open the door in the dark. So, you know, it wasn't an option just to let her. Now we park, she gets out, she meets me on the side, you know, over time it's gotten much, much easier, much easier.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Mhm.
issues with seeking too, like with plants and stuff. My kids are so fascinated with like flowers and leaves and ponds and dirt, especially Nora. Like if there's a bunch of flowers near the entrance of something, that's going to be a pause. Well, and you have to judge the time too. Like you can't rush our kids into a place, so you have to buffer
No.
yourself for
You just
know,
pray while they're in there
10 min-
gardening that we don't have a sprinkler.
10-minute entrance into the building or whatever. Like
Yeah.
God forbid you have to rush into someplace, that just turns into a complete disaster zone.
But you can't make them wait. You can't go
Like
either.
you, yeah,
They can't
like
wait.
you guys, she wouldn't leave a place, and I hated. I'd be honest with you, I hated taking her anywhere because it was so unenjoyable trying to leave. I mean, she wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
It was like, come on. Or, you know, we'd go early and then I would just start to sweat when people would show up, even at a park, because I would go in the bitter cold morning as
Yes.
the light was just coming up.
Yeah.
I would hate when other people would show up
I
at the
would
park.
hate when people would show up at the park with their families because
Yeah.
she doesn't have, and she still doesn't. She'll just go up to you. I mean, she doesn't have the social
Celie feels
awareness
like
of,
if people
I'm
arrive,
joining
that
the
it's
What's your
family.
name,
for her.
honey?
Yeah. What's your name, honey? Good times.
Love it.
You know, but I'm not complaining. We go shopping now. So again, anyone listening, my daughter and I go clothes shopping, we go shoe shopping. She's a great little traveler, you know,
Nails done.
she gets her nails in. Yeah, all of the things that I didn't think we would be able to do in the community in general, she can do now. So it just takes lots of practice and time. And again, asking for accommodations. I have no problem walking to the nail salon and being like, could you please turn that down? I'm here for 20 minutes. Turn it down.
And you
please.
learn what works for your kids. Like Nixon's kind of like Jesse, where if he has something in his hand, like a dinosaur or sensory toy or something, then he has an easier time like focusing on what we're doing just by having something in his hands, you know. You learn tricks over time, what works to get them out of places or in places.
Does anyone else's kid love laying on the floor wherever you're at? Jessie lays on every
everything.
sweet baby
floor.
Jesus.
I'm like, please get up. I'm like, that's
Plus,
disgusting.
like
The
Kim
Walmart
says,
floor.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Freaking roll it like it's a rug. Like what? It is terrible. I'm like, do you have a shoehorn? It's the only thing that
It's the
didn't fit in this
worst.
bag.
And then you're like, get up. You're like, get up right now. People
Yeah,
watching you
that
and you're like,
sturdy
you're like,
ear
come on.
voice.
I'm like, please
Honey,
get
I know
up.
you're struggling. We've got
Please
to
get
get up
up.
right now.
I'm like, I will give you any candy. You can
Do
buy
you want
any
me a
candy.
pony?
Get off the floor.
Get up right now if you want Toys R Us. I'm not kidding. Get up right now. I had to bribe her and go buy her something to get her out of somewhere.
Yeah,
That stuff
and you
wouldn't
better
work
hope
with
that
Alyssa
place is
because
a goddamn drive-through.
she wouldn't understand that when she was younger. She'd have no understanding of that. So it's like, when you don't have that tool, you don't even realize how valuable that is until you can't use it. I mean, I used it with my other 3 kids, but like, it would mean nothing to her. Nothing.
Mhm. I
Like-
said just on this same episode, Kimmy, I said pre-bribery sucks. And then I thought like never bribery sucks.
So we
Girl.
can a little bit do it now. Now she understands it. Like when I was trying to get her to do her speech and I was like, do you want a cupcake? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, do speech. She's like, no. But like, she understood it. Cause she's like,
Yeah.
I'll just go get one anyways, lady. I don't know.
I'm
I
not
feel
waiting
like-
for you.
When he was younger, he did not understand. Even now, sometimes he's like, no, I'm good. Like he's the most
Nixon
stubborn
does
person
that
you will
too.
ever meet.
Yeah.
But especially
Well,
when he was
I've had
younger.
candy thrown right in my face.
Oh, I
Oh,
could
yeah.
offer him anything. He would be like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Celie, her motivator is not necessarily a bribe because she's like, whatever. You know, there are not mermaids on that car ride because we lie. We lie. At Flanaville, we lie. We're like, oh God, they just called. There's been a sighting in the lake. We got to get in the car and go cruising and see if there's any lake mermaids trolling today. We never have found one, you know, like on the rides that she is on. So that does not work. We have to challenge her. It's like, oh, I bet you'll never put your cakes in the car in 5 seconds. You can't. Only 13-year-olds can do that. And then she'll be like, counted. But if you start counting without this tomfoolery beforehand, that drops it like it's hot too, right down onto that, like roll it like a manatee rug.
Or I think all of our children say, no, thank you.
No, thank
that-
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kimmy's
No,
does,
thank
and
you.
I say the name in case she's close by. Mine will, she'd be like, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Jessie does
Nixon
that
says
too.
that too.
I get
Remember
no
when
thank
we
you
were proud
or
of those words?
the triple no's. No, 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 no. Like you can just say it once. You can say it one time.
First time. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
my
make
typical
sure-
child just says, leave me alone.
I get
I keep feeling like
How
I
does
should
it
teach Celie to
out?
say, all right, or something.
Yeah, something cute. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be cute. All right, all right, all right.
So I think the
Matthew
takeaway
I
of
mean,
this,
Alyssa non-verbally will tell you because she'll point with her whole hand and go point to the door and go, ah! It's like, she don't need
Yeah.
words to get her
Yeah.
point across. I'm like, oh, you want me to leave? And then she's like, yes. I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah. So I think the
Typical.
takeaway is it gets easier, right? It
Yeah.
does. You just keep trying.
Learn
Eventually, you learn the tricks and what works for them. And ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for
And
help.
then it'll
And
change.
all else
because they
fails?
grow.
I wish you luck.
Shout at
I
the
keep
guy to
saying
open the freaking door.
Open the door,
Grab the
McDonald's,
damn
please.
purse.
Grab the damn purse. Yes.
Oh,
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you
Thank
next
you.
time. This is how we do it.
Thank you for joining us at the table for the second episode of our 6th series, This Is How We Do It. If you are enjoying the podcast and listen on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you could rate and review us. You can also leave a review on our Facebook page. Make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also email us at tablefor5podcast@gmail.com. We have new episodes every Monday. Make sure to join us next week for episode 3 about how we do communication. We can't wait to sit with you again, and we'll see you very soon.